distortions in the spiritual realm. I wanted to talk about one of the biggest distortions at all within the spiritual realm, and that will be spirituality within itself. Now, you might think that just sounds completely irrational, but if we are to look at one of the Hermetic principles of the law of polarity, in that everything within the universe has its opposite, has its opposing force. And within the social system that we find ourselves in, within that matrix, we find ourselves enmeshed in this capitalistic system. That idea in that everything becomes privatized, everything becomes mine. We are overrun by greed, by hyper-individualism, by profit, by continuing to destroy these very things that are our essence. Marx astutely pointed out that capitalism creates the alienation of ourself, in that we lose our essence, we lose our being, we lose that part of us rather than gaining that power back. And now this is all created because we are constantly working solely for ourselves, when in our truest essence, in our truest form, we are a part of the greater whole, that there's nothing separating anybody and anything, that every single thing within the universe has that point of singularity, has that God particle inside of all of us. And now, if we are to look at the laws of polarity and have capitalism on one end of the spectrum, on the opposite, we have what I claim to be spirituality. Marx claimed for it to be communism, but I feel in fact it's actually spirituality, because again, that essence that is us is connected to everything and everyone. When we move towards the collective movements to begin to embrace each and every one, to see how, even though we're all beautiful, unique snowflakes, that we are all pieces of that larger puzzle. And together we create that masterpiece. Together we create that beautiful space for each person to be able to thrive by living out their passion, their purpose, whatever that is. And it's that passion and purpose that will begin to create that space for each and every person, for everything and everyone. And now this is why spirituality becomes the ultimate form of revolution, and why there is so much opposing force to the spiritual movement that we find ourselves in right now. Because the more and more that our collective consciousness begins to remember, that our collective consciousness begins to embrace the whole rather than the individual, the more that capitalism begins to loosen its grip upon us, the more that this social system begins to break down, because we return back to that essence. We return back to that unconditional love inside each and every one of us. And when we can begin to feel that unconditional love for not only ourselves, but for everything and everyone, we'll return back to that state of peace. We'll return back to that state of harmony. But in the meantime, this is how spirituality always becomes viewed through that capitalistic lens, that until we're able to shift enough, that everything's always going to come back through this lens of me, 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 rather than we, rather than opening up to everything and everyone.